Hello sports fans, and welcome back to another week of the Pioneers Weekly Football Preview. Looking back on the first week of the high school season, we had some big games obviously, with Reed City coming out with a tight win over Big Rapids. Everett, Chippewa Hills, and Baldwin were also victorious in week 1. But looking to week 2, we're going to start things off with Crossroads home opener. They face Ashley. Bob, can you give us a little bit of an idea of what to expect after Crossroads faces a tough week 1 loss? What do they got to do to get back on track this week?
I think this is the same thing we said in week 1 applies to week 2. It's going to apply all throughout the season. It's just about fundamentals, basics, and getting better every week. Crossroads, I don't think is going to win this game, but they just got to take baby steps and keep getting better. If they do that, it's going to be a successful season, even if they don't win a game this year.
Brandon, can you give us an idea of what to expect in this game and what Crossroads needs to do to have some success offensively?
It just gets down to fundamentals, like Bob said. They're going to need to work on their blocking. They need to work on their tackling. And I think this week they're going to put some points on the board, and that'll energize some of the players and get them going and ready. I don't think they pulled this one out this week, though.
Yeah, that's a good point, Brendan. I think blocking and tackling, definitely two of the easiest things that you can amend for a team that is struggling. A young team like Crossroads is going to have to work on those fundamentals to be successful. I don't think they get it done this week, but look for some improvement in the numbers against Ashley. Looking at our next game on the schedule, Big Rapids travels to Hesperia after a tough week 1 loss to Reed City. Big Rapids looking to rebound, but Bob, I have to imagine that Big Rapids takes a lot of positives from the week 1 loss to Reed City, being how they played in the first half and how they hung with a team that a lot of people were predicting to be the odds-on favorite to win the CSAA.
Absolutely. Big Rapids did a lot of good things out there. They moved the ball. They stopped Reed City's offense. There's a lot of things they can take into tonight. Just got to clean up some things in the red zone. When you get in the red zone, things are tighter. You got to be more precise. You got to execute better. And if they do that, they're going to be in good shape against Hesperia. I don't think that's going to be a problem. And I see the Big Rapids win this game quite handily.
Brandon, after such a tough loss in week 1 to a huge rival, obviously the game that they're looking forward to the most this season, how do you keep this team focused on Hesperia and avoid that letdown in the second week after playing well in week 1?
Well, that's where the coaching will come in. Coach Cummings and his other coaches are going to get those players revved up and ready to go. They played pretty good against Reed City. They should have won. They could have won. What it comes down to is execution, especially in the red zone, and I think they're going to be way prepared for Hesperia, and I see this being a big blowout.
Yeah, I gotta agree with both of the guys here. Big Rapids seems to be a very hungry team, very motivated this season. You got the sense that even after the loss to Reed City, that they were very focused on keeping the ship right and making sure that they didn't let one loss define their season. I think they're going to use that this week as motivation and get a big win over Hesperia. Looking at our next matchup, Chippewa Hills travels to Newaygo. Both teams 1-0 on the year. Chippewa Hills coming off a big win in its opener at home against Central Montcalm, where they put up 47 points. Bob, can you talk a little bit about what makes this Chippewa Hills offense so dangerous and whether you expect them to continue to have success against Newaygo this week?
I think any coach would tell you that to be successful offensively, you got to be able to run the ball, you got to be able to pass the ball. And Chippewa Hills did that Friday night. Karcher had a couple of touchdown passes caught, and Jared Emerson ran for a couple of touchdowns. And when you have those kind of threats, you're making defenses pick one way or the other, who to stop. And right now, I don't think anyone, it's early in the season, knows who they want to stop or how they want to stop them. And I expect Chippewa Hills to keep going and put up a decent amount of points on Newaygo this week.
Brandon, looking at this matchup, Newaygo new to the CSAA this year. Does that play any factor in this matchup, not knowing the opponent? And do you feel like Chippewa Hills is equipped to continue with this offensive pace that they set in the first game?
I think being new to the CSA is going to give Newaygo an advantage that the other guys don't really know them exactly as much as they should, such as Chippewa Hills would know Reed City or Morley Stanwood. As for Chippewa Hills, their offense seems really fine-tuned and working well. It's the defense giving up 32 points in the first week, and that's going to be a big concern for Coach Jose and the Warriors. But I see the Warriors coming out strong this game and probably winning 36-12.
Yeah, I think one of the things that stood out about Chippewa Hills' win in week 1 was how many weapons that they had on the field at one time. You couldn't really key on one player. If you went to Karcher, Emerson was wide open. So they have a lot of different options, and I know Coach Jose is still trying to establish the ground game there. If they can do that, they'll be a very tough team to beat in the CSAA. I've got them winning by a couple touchdowns over Newaygo this week. Our next matchup, it's Coleman traveling to Baldwin. Baldwin's coming off a big win in week 1, and they're looking to continue that pace this week against Coleman, a team that beat them pretty handily last year. The question going into this game, Bob, is whether Baldwin can continue on that pace that they set offensively in the first game with a lot of fireworks. Do you see that continuing this week against Coleman?
I do. Coleman put up 54 points last week in a loss to Farwell, and Baldwin scored 36. I think there's going to be points all over the place. So I don't know who's going to win this game. I'm picking Coleman, but this game's going to have like an over-under of like 100 points because there's going to be just points all over the place.
Yeah, Brandon, what do you think? Obviously Baldwin has the offense to hang with Coleman. The question obviously is the defense. Does Baldwin have the tools defensively to stop Coleman enough to pick up a win?
After last week's performance of winning but still giving up quite a few points, I don't see Baldwin coming out and becoming a juggernaut on defense. It's going to be a high-scoring affair, and it's going to take a lot for Baldwin to hang with Coleman. I think Coleman's going to put up more points this week than Baldwin.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Baldwin is a team that's going to, at least in the early stages of the season, going to have to outscore some people. With the way that Coleman produced offensively in the first week of the season, you have to kind of question whether Baldwin's going to be able to stop them. I think Baldwin gets its share of points, obviously, but not enough to top Coleman. Looking at our next matchup, Everett travels to Harrison coming off a huge win in week 1, a 37-0 victory over Sutton's Bay. They looked dominant on both sides of the ball in the opener with a very skilled Wildcat team as well as experience. Bob, you have them traveling to Harrison this week. Do you see Everett continuing the success that they had in week 1?
Absolutely. Harrison isn't a very good football team, and I think Everett's ability to run the football will, kind of hurt Harrison. It's nothing worse than having the ball run down your throat, play after play, and you can't stop them. I think Everett wins this one big, goes 2-0, and gets them, one step closer to that 6 wins.
Well, yeah, as you mentioned, Bob, the 6 wins becomes more of a reality, I think, after the way that Everett played in week 1. Brandon, I got to ask you, has your opinion of Everett changed at all after a big win in week 1? And do you see this as a playoff-type team, and how do you see them faring against Harrison this week?
I think you have the groundwork and foundation for a good playoff team. Getting the win over Sutton's Bay was key. Now they go on the road, and they could pick up 2, their number 2 win on the season, and it'll help them get ready for conference play. As for this week, their running game's going to have to be smart and solid, and I see them winning handedly.
Everett, I think their experience is really going to help them in this game. They're going to pound the ball against Harrison, and I think I agree with both of you guys. I think they both win big over Harrison this week. Next up, we have Reed City, who will be hosting Morley Stanwood. Reed City, obviously, with a big win over Big Rapids in week 1. Looking at a Morley Stanwood team that dropped their opener to Lakeview. Morley Stanwood showed a little bit of that youth and inexperience in week 1 against Lakeview. Now they're faced with a tough task of playing a very experienced Coyote team. Bob, what do you see looking at this matchup, and who holds the advantage?
I think Reed City has the advantage in this game because they have more experience, and that's going to play a part in this. Morley Stanwood is still trying to put the pieces together, and it might take a couple weeks for all that to come together. I see Reed City, kind of getting back on track a little bit and getting that offense rolling, and I see them winning pretty handily in this one.
Brandon, who holds the advantage in this matchup? Looking at Morley Stanwood not being able to produce a lot of offense in that Week 1 showdown against a veteran Reed City defense.
I think Reed City holds the advantage this week, especially coming after Friday's win against Big Rapids here in Big Rapids. They're going to open up at home, and they're going to face a Morley Stanwood team that's not very good. They're young, like you guys said, and Reed City's going to take it to them.
I think Reed City getting that big win in Week 1 over Big Rapids kind of relieves a lot of the pressure that they had coming into the season, coming off an undefeated regular season for the first time in school history, going 9-0. And, starting with Big Rapids, that puts a lot of pressure on a team right out the gate. I think they play a lot looser this week against Morley Stanwood, playing at home in front of the home fans, and as a result, I think that's a big advantage for them. I think Morley Stanwood will probably play a little bit better this week, maybe get things clicking a little bit better offensively. I still think Reed City wins by a few touchdowns in this one. Taking a look at our final prep game on the schedule for this week, Boise Central is going to host Pine River this week. The Bucks are coming off a tough Week 1 loss to Kalkaska. Bob, how does Pine River rebound after such a big setback in Week 1?
The way you bounce back is sort of like how when we talk about Crossroads, is fundamentals. You just got to clean everything up. You're blocking, make sure you're with your block a second longer. Tackling, make sure they're down, and just clean up those mistakes. And if they do that, they're going to be able to hang with Boise. I still think Boise gets this win, but I think you're going to see a lot better Pine River football team this week.
Yeah, Brandon, looking at this matchup, Pine River struggled offensively in Week 1. You do have a returning quarterback with some experience. How do you build off of that performance and execute better in Week 2?
Just as Bob said, you got to learn from your mistakes, especially from Week 1. But you have a Boise team coming in that they beat last year. Actually, they're hosting Pine River, so you're going up there knowing that you beat them last year and they won the Northwest Conference. So you can take that, put that away, and use that to motivate you a little bit. I just don't see Pine River coming out strong enough to hang with Boise, though.
Yeah, I think what we see this week is an increase in production from the Pine River offense. I still don't think it's enough for them to get past Boise Central. I'm going to say Boise Central by about 10 points in this one. Now moving on to the college ranks, Ferris State opens its season on Thursday against St. Francis in Illinois, an NAIA school. The game will be the first under the new era of Ferris State football with head coach Tony Anise. Anise coming off a wildly successful tenure at both Grand Rapids Community College and in the prep ranks for over the past 25 years. They open with a St. Francis team that nobody knows anything a lot about. A couple of former Ferris State assistant coaches on the staff over there now, so there are some connections there. Bob, looking at this opener, how important is this game for Ferris to get started off on the right track with a new coach and new philosophy and everything like that? And do you see Ferris State coming out victorious?
I think this game and getting off to a fast start is very important for the Bulldogs. First of all, Coach Anise has come in, has installed his philosophy on offense and defense, and they've worked hard at trying to master all those nuances. And so they got to come out and have success, and that will have the players buy into the systems a little bit more. Secondly, their schedule is brutal. You got Grand Valley, Saginaw Valley, Wayne State, Ashland. The list goes on and on. They got to get wins early, get some confidence, so when they get to those games, they're playing with that confidence that is needed.
Yeah, Brandon, with so many unknowns with the Ferris State team, how they're going to respond to a new offense and defensive schemes, who's going to play quarterback for them. Do you see any chance of an upset here against St. Francis, being that St. Francis is one of the top teams in NAIA?
I think there's always a chance for an upset, especially with so many unknown variables coming into just the first game of the season. As for a new coaching staff, a new system, new program, I think there's going to be a couple hiccups, but like Bob said, they got to get their wins in quick. I just don't think it'll be this week.
The key for Ferris State this week, I think, when you have the uncertainty of installing a new offense, a lot of new things up in the air, is going to be their defense. They returned 10 players who started at least 5 games last year, and that's going to be the hallmark of their success. Any success this team has, it's going to be dependent on how the defense plays. I think they get a win over St. Francis this week, and that's going to be spearheaded by the defense. I'll say they pick up a win 24-17. Looking at our next game on the schedule, Michigan State opens its season after winning the Legends Division last year as they host Boise State, a giant killer over the past decade against FBS schools. Bob, looking at this matchup, with everything that Michigan State has gained in the past few years, they're actually coming into this game the favorite. Do you see them coming out as the winner in this?
I absolutely see Michigan State coming out with a victory in this one. There's a lot of unknowns over at Boise State, namely at quarterback. Kellen Moore has graduated after winning 50 games for the Broncos, now in the Lions system. And Michigan State's defense is arguably one of the best in the country. And I see the Spartans winning this one pretty handily, and which might surprise a lot of people, but I think Michigan State is that good this year.
Brandon, as we've seen in the past, Boise State, every year you're saying, well, it's not going to happen this year. People are taking Boise State seriously. It seems like we're kind of doing that again, playing them up as the underdog in this game. Do they have any shot at upsetting Michigan State in the opener this week?
I think when it's all said and done, there's always a chance for an upset, especially from a team like Michigan State, who they've been talked about their defense. It's been boosted up. But if they don't take things seriously, Boise State will come back and bite them in the tail end if they don't come to play. Obviously, Michigan State's at home, so I think that's going to be the big mitigating factor in all of this. They're at home. They're going to be amped up to play, and I think they squeak out a win.
Yeah, normally I would say Boise's got a very good chance to win this game. They're just replacing too much. This is the team that lost more starters than any team in Division I football from a year ago. They had a couple of first-round draft picks in the NFL draft from this year that are not on the team anymore. I see Michigan State, because they play so well fundamentally and physically on the defensive side of the ball, that's really going to cause a lot of problems for the Boise State offense. I see Michigan State winning. I don't see them putting up a lot of points, but they won't need to. Looking at our final matchup on the schedule this week is the one that a lot of people have been anticipating in college football. Michigan against Alabama and Dallas for the kickoff classic. This game, obviously one of the most anticipated openers in Michigan football recent memory against the defending national champions. Michigan, a lot has been made about how they will stack up against a team with all of this SEC talent, and Alabama being talked about as a potential dynasty. Bob, do you see Michigan having any chance of pulling off the upset in this one?
No, I really don't. Alabama is Alabama. They're in the SEC. They are the kings until someone proves otherwise. I don't think Michigan stacks up well against them. Alabama's front line, offensive line, is going to be dominating. They're going to be able to run the ball on them. And Michigan lost too much on the defensive line. For Michigan to win, everything's just got to play out perfectly. Alabama's got to turn the ball over. Michigan's got to have to capitalize on mistakes. That's not a Nick Saban team. Alabama will win this one. It'll be close because Alabama doesn't blow out anybody, but it'll be like a 24-10 game.
What do you think of this matchup, Brandon? Obviously, a lot of hype on the Alabama defense in particular and what they return on the offensive line. Does Michigan have any chance of pulling off an upset, and what would they have to do for that to happen?
It would take the game of his life for Denard Robinson and his Michigan compatriots to actually go to Dallas and win against Alabama. No one would think, seeing this on paper, that they have a chance at winning. But there's always a chance. There's always mistakes that can be made. And quite honestly, it's Nick Saban. He still has a little green and white on him, so I mean that can motivate him too. But I just don't see it happening this week. I think Alabama's going to win, not handedly, but it's going to be a good game.
Yeah, I think Bob alluded to this earlier, is looking at this game, besides the fact of all the talent that Alabama has on both sides of the ball, the matchups don't favor Michigan in this one, particularly Bama's offensive line, which is easily regarded as the best in the country, and we all know what they have talent-wise on the defensive side of the ball. I just don't think this is a good matchup for Michigan. I think Michigan is going to be very prepared for this game. They'll have a good game plan for Alabama, but they're still just a couple years away from competing on that level that Alabama's been at for a few years now. I'll say that Alabama wins by a couple touchdowns in this one. Now, for our final segment of the Pioneers Weekly Football Preview, we take a look back and hand out our game balls for the week, where each of us picks out a player or players that we feel exemplified a top performance of the week. So we're going to start with Bob, and Bob, can you tell us who earns your game ball for the week?
My game ball goes out to Everett's Austin Grind. The running back rushed for more than 100 yards, scored 3 touchdowns. And for good measure, he blocked a punt for a safety, and he helped the Wildcats to a shutout of Sutton's Bay. And they're going to need performances like that from him the rest of the way if they want to compete in the Highland Conference and make the playoffs.
All right, Brandon, who you got for your game ball this week?
Well, I'm giving my game ball to 2 guys over at Chip. You have Trent Karcher and Jared Emerson, who just lit up the field on Friday night. Probably the most explosive offense that is in the CSAA, and hopefully this week they can garner another game ball.
I'm going to go to Lake County for my game ball. I'm going to go with Andon Ware. He's been doing this for a long time, and he's been doing it all over the field for Baldwin at running back, wide receiver, and on defense. This week, in the Week 1 win, had over 200 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns, and also had 13 tackles on defense. He's their do-everything guy, and he'll need to be for Baldwin to be successful this season. That's it for this week's edition of the Pioneer Weekly Football Preview. As always, make sure to check out www.bigrapidsnews.com for coverage of all of these games, or check out Friday's edition this week of the Pioneer.